the prepper's fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, around the fire every night. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Preppers Fireside. Steve thought the intro was much longer than it was. That was the short version of the intro, Steve. Should have warned you about that one.
Why did you do that?
Got a full panel tonight. It's great to see everyone. Steve, allegedly the overlord of the kettle. How are you doing?
I'm good. This is where I was putting the kettle on again.
All right.
It's all your fault.
Excellent. And Philip joining us from the Highlands. How are you doing, Philip?
Tremendous, thank you. And yourself?
I'm excellent. I haven't got you asking all the questions in the comments, so it's a break for me when you come and join the panel. So it's always a pleasure. Alan, the world survivalist. How are you doing, sir?
I am good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. I'm good. Tonight we are talking about prepping across all the generations and how we then pass that down to the next generation. I believe all of us here are parents, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. Some of us are better parents than others, I'm sure. But, you know, you can judge for yourself. However, first we want to go back because prepping is not a new thing. Being prepared is not a new thing. I'm sure we'll all agree that our grandparents were much more prepared than us. Steve, do you have memories of like grandparents and pantries and things like that?
Yes, definitely. My parents and my grandparents were big believers in having stuff put away, coming from previous to World War II, growing up during it and life after it. So yeah, on both sides of the family as well, big believers in having a pantry and barter arrangements with neighbours and all sorts.
Yeah, I like that barter arrangement with neighbours as well. Alan, have you a similar sort of thing? Do you remember seeing parents or grandparents, etc., that were had much more in the cupboards than everyone seems to have these days?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose we're starting off with the kind of boomer generation. That would be, you know, the post-war type era people. I grew up, I actually lived with my grandparents, well, my gran, until I was, you know, a teenager. So I grew up with my gran and my uncle, and my gran always had a pantry full of actual ingredients, actual things that you would make whole meals with. It was there was none of this put things. She didn't even own a microwave. You know, she didn't have anything like that. Everything was done on a saucepan and a cooker, done properly. And that's a generation where they mend things as opposed to just buy things disposably and throw it out. You know, they're a lot more prepared that way. But they would never have seen themselves as preppers. They would have just thought that was common sense.
Just the normality
Just
at
normal,
the time,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Philip, similar sort of story for you, like with parents and things?
Okay, so my grandparents passed away when I was young, so I don't really remember. And my mum was a social worker, and my dad was an accountant. They weren't really interested in this at all. And for me, my family history was quite dark, but I think that shaped and molded my personality to be extremely driven. And when I'm in, I'm all in. And every family setup is different, and you have to take what you can from it. So they didn't prepare me in terms of they were natural preppers, but the trauma that was projected from my family background has made me and molded me so that I go further than most. So yes, in a way, I am.
That's a different perspective, definitely. I mean, just to the generations before, though, do you think they just generally shopped more in bulk and had more in the cupboards than we see the generations now? If we talk about it generationally rather than at a personal level?
What I do remember about my grandma is that she loved her biscuits and she loved her blankets. So she had a lot of both. So in that sense, yes.
Well, there you go. A lot of blankets. That's a good prep no matter what. Excellent. So, yeah. So, and I think it kind of petered down in my family anyway. So my granddad was like the ultimate prepper. Like nothing would ever be thrown out. You might call it a hoarder, but he would wire every plug himself, do absolutely everything himself. When there was a blackout, all the other families were in darkness. He'd wired a TV up to multiple car batteries and all sorts. He'd done some really obscure stuff. And then my mum was kind of like that, but it had filtered down. And then if I look at my brother, because he's not a prepper like me, it's filtered down again to this just-in-time living. Is that purely through convenience, Steve, that people have just stopped this keeping food in cupboards? Do we even need kitchens anymore?
I think to a degree, yes. Depending on where you live in the country, you can get same day delivery. You can get deliveries of various things within a matter of hours. You've got click and collect on a multitude of things, especially food and daily household items. Definitely. I have siblings that think I belong on another planet because nothing's ever going to happen, and they go shopping every night of the week.
Yeah.
Because they say to me, well, how do you know what you want to eat on a Thursday? Well, it's not like I've got a food diary pinned on the wall. I don't want to go shopping every night of the week. I don't like shopping anyway. I've got to interact with various creatures that class themselves as part of the human race. But there's having everything at your fingertips is a double-edged sword. It's wonderfully convenient, and at the same time, we can become lazy. But there are those in society that have not been brought up with having a pantry or any sort of vision on self-reliance at all. So they don't know any different. They might have a bit of an uphill battle when they open their eyes to see that everything is not as rosy or as smooth flowing as it appears to be. We used to have stock rooms in the supermarket or even your shops in the high street. They used to have the loft or a warehouse bit above the shop floor, and then at the back. And now it's a case of it comes in off the lorry, goes on the various cages, and it hits the shop floor, and the boys and girls put it out. And how many times have you been in the shop and said, "Have you got any out the back?" And they just look at you and say, "If it's not on the shelf, it's not here."
Just empty cardboard boxes out the back now.
Out the back now is literally the transitional space between the delivery lorry and the shop floor.
Yeah, there's not really many overages and stuff. It's interesting you mentioned the siblings, because like I say, I've got the same sort of thing where I've got a brother who doesn't prepare. What do you think? I mean, have you had that conversation with them? Have you tried to steer them?
And the answer I got was, that's why I pay taxes. And so
the government's coming to save us.
I decided that I would break the habit of the last 30 years of trying to educate this person and said, okay, how's your car? Yeah. Move on to something else quick, because it was just going to be a round and round and round, a merry-go-round, and nothing would have come of it apart from just wasted oxygen.
What do you think the difference is then? I mean, how are you so into prepping and they've not? Your siblings, you're brought up similar sort of ways, similar sort of environment, similar sort of impressions. What do you think forked that road?
Growing up, we have different lifestyles because there's a number of years between us. My siblings have traveled a little. I didn't go to college and things. I served, and I went to some wonderful places with wonderful people and some not so wonderful places with not so wonderful people. And again, I did it after I left the service as a contractor as well. Mm-hmm. So those things reiterated or reminded me of, you're not always going to have milk and sugar with your tea or your coffee. You're not always going to have running water. And even when I was in a uniform, things weren't always wonderfully smooth. You had to depend on each other or on yourself to make things happen. So, some people choose to stay in a nice, safe environment. Others choose to step out of it every now and again and see what's going on in the world. And I think it's a healthy thing to step out of your realm of safety to educate yourself.
Definitely. Thank you.
How far you want to step out, mind is between you and you and the reflection or your subconscious.
Excellent. I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. That's great. New City Prepper, thank you very much for the $4.99 super sticker. It's really appreciated. Alan, have you got siblings or people of the same generation within your family that prepare or don't prepare?
I've got a younger brother and I've got 2 younger sisters. There's sort of 2 years between sort of all of us. I'm the oldest. From a prepared point of view, I mean, my brother is, I suppose, as close to my way of thinking of all of us. That's probably because he's male. He's also served in the army. He's in the TA now, and he's a kind of practical type person. So people in that kind of mindset tend to become more self-reliant in their own way. But that said, both my sisters are very independent and self-reliant in their own ways, to suit their own circumstances. So it kind of swings and roundabouts that way. The just-in-time aspect of the generational divide is the thing that changed. I mean, the boomer generation didn't grow up with supermarkets. They didn't grow up with the ability to just walk into a supermarket and buy strawberries out of season anytime they like. And there was definitely a difference between the mindset that my grandmother had to my mother. My mum's fairly young. She had me when she was like 17 or something. So, there wasn't a massive gap there. So as I was brought up with my grandmother, she was living in the era of there's a big supermarket, but she would also make a point of going to the local corner shop where, the guy, I remember, would hand her milk and her paper and something else, because that was just a part of the routine. And she believed that you would have to go to a butcher to buy meat, never a supermarket. And you had to go to a butcher on a certain day because that's the day the chicken was in. That's the day that and I'm not talking about like a very long time ago. I mean, I was born in 1984, so I'm talking now about what would have been the early 90s, mid 90s. So not a massive period of time ago. But there was still people in that kind of mindset, that kind of way of thinking. And that is lost a bit now, because I mean, I'll give you a quick example. I've got an air fryer, and you have those paper things that you stick in the air fryer, those grease-proof paper things
that you're supposed to, that I don't, and just
I get them. I get them. I ordered 2 packs of them this morning at 9 o'clock. They arrived today, about 2 hours ago, from Amazon. You know what I mean? It's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why people don't prepare, because they don't think they need to. They think they can just order something and then, 6 hours later it's on your doorstep. And that is the case at the moment. And that's what people, just don't grasp. They can't imagine a world where that's not the case.
Phil, you're out in the sticks a wee little bit, a bit further out than a lot of us. Can you get air paper fryers if you order them this morning by 2 o'clock? Have you got the just in time there?
Yeah, just in time is not quite in time always, because it's a bit further away. It sometimes happens, not really on the day, maybe the day after. Never on the day, and usually quite a few days. Convenience, the just-in-time model, it was introduced to reduce costs and increase profit margins, and I get why it was there, but it's bred a generation that's used to convenience, disposable goods, zero inventory, zero waste, and zero clue for me.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a generation that's lost the skill to, just lost lots of skills in general, but the resilience factor has gone. And no matter what you think of Trump and all the crises like pandemics and so on, the one thing that's the flip side of those sort of things that people talk about is that they encourage you to think and to bring back resilience, because the supply chain's disrupted by tariffs, for example. That means that you have to look elsewhere and you have to get thinking outside the box, and disruptions create resilience. So
Yeah.
you can make
well,
it, but it
You'd
makes
like
you,
to think so.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that they make resilience. But I mean, Steve, your siblings must have been through COVID. They must have been through the petrol strikes when the shelves started to empty out and when we had fuel shortages and stuff like that. They've lived all these things, still not preparing. Or why aren't people learning? Why is burying your hand in the head in the sand such a thing for this generation?
It's in the past now. It's done. It's over. It won't happen again. Everything's back to normal.
Said that after my third marriage.
Yeah, I did broach the topics, not on a basis of haha, I told you so, you're not having anything of mine, get lost. That came later. But I did broach the topic, and the answer I got was, well, everything's okay now. Well, yeah, everything's okay now, but don't you want to like preempt the next one? Because there will be a next one.
Mm-hmm.
Told me's a next one. So,
but the government that they pay the taxes to have obviously learned from the last one, so they'll be more prepared for us.
yeah. We live in the same county, so I don't know what they're seeing that I ain't. But I don't know if it's maybe it's more difficult because they know them, their family, whatever. But I get to a point with people that I'm not doing it for you, and if you can't learn from your own misfortunes, I can't do it for you. Especially when you're a grown adult, I can't do it for you, and if you're not willing to learn, well, there you go. You're a grown adult.
There's definitely something in what Phil was talking about the built-in resilience factor of what's happening in the time. So the boomer generation lived through rationing and fuel shortages and strikes and things like that. So they were a lot more, cautious about how much they put into their car fuel-wise, and they would have jerry cans in the shed like my grandfather used to insist on doing. I remember that before he died, and that's a different kind of mindset born out of necessity because of the things that were happening then. And every single generation thinks that the next generation are idiots and they knew better, and it carries on that way, which obviously can't be true.
To a degree, they're right.
Well, it depends. Well, the thing is, each generation has a completely different thing going on. It's a different era almost. I mean, there really are completely different things going on in the world. I mean, if we kind of wade our way through each of the generations, Generation X completely different from the Boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're quite close, you would think they would be the same. The Generation X was all about the Cold War and the IRA and street bombings and riots in the streets and stuff like that. And you can link some of that stuff up to the current generation, but do we even our generation, which weirdly enough I'm a millennial, so are you, Mike?
Yeah.
So our generation doesn't really understand whatever the hell this generation is. What are we on now? X or Z or something? No, Z or something.
I can't remember the generation. It's Generation Alpha now, I think.
Is it?
All answer when you shout "Oi" and then you can add an expletive or not, but everybody looks whatever generation.
There's an irony that Generation Alpha will produce the least amount of alpha males of any generation.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a thing as well about the whole. We touched on it slightly there with the COVID thing. I mean, that's a paradox, because that has inadvertently caused a generation of preppers, but also it's caused a bigger population of people who now don't believe a thing. So that, to me, the COVID pandemic was something of an anticlimax. I mean, it could have been much worse than what it did become. I genuinely thought it was going to be like the plague when it started, and everybody was going to be dropping dead in the streets. That's how it started off. I genuinely believed that. Now I'm at the point where I kind of think
that's the fear that was sold.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was sold to us. But the problem is, because that didn't materialize, whether that was ever true or not, now you have an entire generation of people that, if the next plague, literal plague, does happen, they'll be sitting there saying, yeah, I'm not falling for that bollocks again. I'm just going to do nothing. And
As
that's
they're
the very
coughing up
opposite.
black blood.
Exactly, you know. So it's a strange thing.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It's we've bred that naivety, right, in a way, by overselling everything. Like, I mean, World War III is on the brink every year for the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? Soon that'll become the boy who cries wolf. Until we see metal cigar tubes in the air with fire coming out the back, we won't, you know, we won't believe it until it happens, or a lot of people won't believe
The
it
sad thing about it is, though, I mean, as people who follow this kind of thing, as preppers, if you like, we know that eventually it will happen. That's the thing. It's really just a play for time. It's not the case that, yeah, you know, pandemic, you know, is unlikely because we've got it out of the system. It wasn't as bad as we thought. No point in thinking about it anymore. But we know for a fact that there will be another pandemic. We don't know when. It could be 100 years from now. It could be tomorrow. But it will happen. So it's worth thinking about. It's worth preparing for. But there's entire generations of people now, or an entire generation of people now, are just thinking no, you know, because they're binary in their thinking. You know, there are some people who will prepare based on their politics. You know, and that to me is insane.
Yeah. Phil, as kids, me and Alan, as millennials, still had scouts, still had physical education, still had camping, still had all this stuff going up. That's slowly, I know Scouts 2 still exists and cadets still do, but it's definitely becoming less trendy and less popular. You think the generations coming forward, like that Generation Z and stuff like that, and so on, Alpha, whatever they decide to call the next one, Generation Fucked. Do you think all of them, it's going to get more and more reliant on this system? Are they not making the rod for their own back?
It's still there. The options are still there, but you talked about the next generation thinking, are they idiots? Well, they're clever in their own ways. They've got technical skills with gadgets that we are really jealous of, and they've got different skills. COVID has unfortunately reduced the social skills, so that's going to be interesting in the years to come. But also you've got TikTok and the likes of social media that's skewing things massively. And you talk about, are they idiots? Well, some of them genuinely are now, unfortunately, because they've got short attention spans. So they're kind of idiots and savants at the same time, because they've got amazing skills, but they're also idiots. So it's a generation of extremity to me. And so if they go to things like Scouts, I wonder how their attention span is in Scouts, and do the Scout leaders have to kind of have fidget toys and gimmicks to keep them focused? I'm not a Scout leader, but
you can only earn a badge if they can teach it you in 30 seconds or less. Then you scroll to the next Scout leader. It sounds plausible, right?
Yes, it does.
Let's pull some comments in on this, because we have had a few comments. I have been starring some of them, guys. I'll try and get to as many as you can. Use capitals, use question marks, and I'll try not to miss them. Big thank you to Bar. Shout out to him, because he became a member today on the channel, so appreciate that as well. Sylvia Kate, I only knew my grandmothers as both of my grandfathers died young. Both grandmas lived on a shop every few basis, and they went through World War II shortages in Europe. I think some of that generation. Oh no, there's follow-on dots. I didn't start the follow-on dots, so I'll try and find that anyway. But yeah, she's probably saying that some of that generation were exactly the same in a way. I'm the eldest of 4, 27 today. 27. Past your bedtime, isn't it? Getting old now. My 22-year-old brother doesn't prep. My 19-year-old brother is massive on prepping, same as me. And then my 18-year-old brother is more of a bushcrafter. I mean, that sounds like you've had the right upbringing there, Lewis. But I assume you break the mold for that generation. It's definitely a lot less common. So, but thank you for sharing that. Andy Pandy, myself and my partner into prepping and stocking just because we ran out of baby formula once and couldn't buy our usual brand for over 3 days. I mean, that's that if it gets you started in the prepping journey, brilliant, no problem. But yeah, think about it. We'll talk about supplies for children shortly. Oh yeah, there you go. The "it won't happen again" delusion seems entrenched in many people. That was the end of Sylvia's comment. Thank you for that. Because the news constantly pumps out ever increasing distracting topic, change the news scandal or etc. Yeah. Understand their question. Why do people want to get supplies last minute or wait for the lines now? Didn't you say that in Shadow? I feel like I've got deja vu. I'm sure you asked exactly the same question in Shadow's life. When you've lived it, oh no, so Steve's going to read this one for us. Go ahead, Steve.
Is that somewhat racist? I'm not sure anymore.
When you well, I'll give it a try. When you've lived in Llangawak, Clanryd.
You're not far off. Just say North Wales.
I'm not even seeing a K. What are you talking about?
Double L is Cla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, double D is TH, like Gwyneth. I lived in the county Gwyneth.
Very strange. I don't know.
I lived in Blaenau-Festiniog in Gwyneth.
Why can't people just speak properly like me?
It's all going to go downhill in a minute.
But he's right. Prepping becomes second nature. I lived right in the middle of the Snowdonia National Park at Blaenau-Festiniog. The only shop there was a co-op and the Queen's Garage, which if you wanted to pay £27 for a Mars bar, you could go there as well. But other than that, it was 60 miles to the nearest hospital, supermarket, or anything like that. So you really do have to live slightly differently in places. Cheers, Taffy. I'm Gen Z. I definitely don't fit in with the most of the people of my generation. Well, there you go. You said it, Lewis. Look at what's happening now in the last 5 years, and still folks are blinkered, says Brian. Brian also said, with a £5 super chat, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate you. Born in 1984. Count the school years. Yeah. Thank you very much. There's a big push on cadets now. I think they'll grow. I think Phil's got a point of the attention span. My son, my oldest son, joined cadets. Yeah. Went there day one, came back, loves it, wants to do it. This is going to be everything. I'm going to go in the army, blah, blah, blah. Paid for the boots, paid for everything else he needed. 2 weeks later, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I hate it. I don't want to go. I don't think they've got the attention span for it. Steve, cadets, scouts, going to be a thing of the past, you reckon?
I know the numbers are a lot lower than what they used to be when I was that age doing those activities. When I'm just reading some of the comments from earlier, somebody mentioned that the scouts can't do half the stuff they used to. I don't know exactly what they can't do now, but I do know that health and safety plays a massive part in some of these things. Sometimes health and safety goes a little bit too far. You have to allow youngsters to, sounds like a cliche, safely step outside their comfort zone or to do semi-dangerous things safely. You have to learn. I'm not saying you should allow them to put sharp objects through their hand and say, ha, that's sharp. We don't do that now. There's laws, apparently. But again, I think a lot of it comes from too much time with a screen in their face.
Mm-hmm.
How you raise your children in your own house is your own affair. But when I am out and about and I see 5 and 6 year olds with one of these in their face and not talking to their parents, or they're walking down the road FaceTiming people like this, and they walk straight out into the road.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazed that they're not squashed like a pancake. But then I often see parents, both parents, like this, and their children are like it. There's no interaction at all. They go into a restaurant and they ask for a table near a plug socket so they can plug the iPads in or the tablets to be plugged in, because the children or a grown-up or an elder child might kick off that they can't have their electronic device while sat at the table. Again, each to their own of how you raise your children, but it will come back around. Remember, they will choose the old people's home you end up going in. But
even though they're distracted by that phone, make sure you buy them the latest one so they repair you.
Yeah. But I think we had glossy magazines when we were kids, didn't we? Of how girls should look, boys should look, how you talk to each other, and it's evolved from the glossy magazines now to being, you know, constantly plugged in. It comes at them. Parents have got an uphill battle, but they get influenced by a lot of good things, but influenced by a lot of bad stuff as well.
That's what you see often, all on the phones.
Yeah, what's the point in going out and wasting money like they're doing there, having a bottle of plonk with their mates if they're just going to sit there looking at the phone? I mean, I've been to places before now that grown adults around a table, nobody's talking. They're all texting each other around the table. Could have done that in my house, in my pants. You know,
yeah.
I do wonder if that's changing, though. I mean, it might just be what I'm seeing, but I am starting to see a slight shift away from certain things, like certain social medias. Facebook is almost a thing of the past now for the younger generation. You know, like that was the main thing when I was sort of, I don't know, in my 20s or something. Everybody, you had to be on Facebook. Now that's just a thing of the past. And me personally, I got bored of social media. And that's after years and years of being on it. YouTube is the only thing I continue to be on, because that's a different kind of social media, especially if you're a content creator. You know, you're far more involved in that side of it. But I mean, the idea of me sort of just skimming through Facebook now, it's unbearable. I couldn't do it. I do see my son sort of when he goes on YouTube, though he interacts with it differently from me. He will go to the short videos, which I can't stand those bloody things, but he loves them. And he doesn't even wait for them to finish. They're only a minute long, and he skips through them, you know. And I'm like, you're not even watching it. But the information that the current generation is getting bombarded with, that's why their attention span is so short, because they're literally being bombarded with it at a speed that's uncomprehendable. It used to be the case that people thought that 24-hour news cycle would be devastating because we were being continuously fed the mainstream media news cycle, and that was the case for a short period of time. Now the mainstream media can't keep up. You know, you see a story on the BBC and you're like, yeah, I know, I heard about that on YouTube like 2 days ago. You know,
Do you remember the good old days? Do you remember the good old days when at the end of the night a channel would shut down when that was the end of programming for that night?
Teletext would come up.
Yeah. Oh crap! And now I've got to be social with the family. That's what they...
Yeah. National anthems on. Alpha stood up in the corner, chopped one off, and it was time to go to bed.
No, I think the attention span's a worrying thing, but I mean, someone said there, forest schools are popular now, learning safety from preschool age, always outside, cooking, and mini bushcraft. I've seen that half with like my kids' school, but it was like, identify this leaf, now draw this leaf, and that was it. Forest school had finished. I was like, all right, okay. So I think it depends on your area, and
yeah, my son had play-based learning for a long time, which, to be honest, they kind of pushed that to the point where it was obvious the teachers were just using that as an excuse to do bugger all, in my opinion. You know, there's play-based, and then there's off you go and play in the sand while I sit here on my phone, which is what the teachers were doing.
What have you discovered? Sand's not edible, miss. What have you discovered, little Johnny? It wasn't sand, it was a cat litter box.
It's the kids not wanting to get outside. That's the thing that concerns me. See, when I was young, being told I had to stay in the house was my punishment. That was the punishment. You know, it's like, what do you mean I can't go outside? Literally being inside was
grounded.
It was like absolute torture, especially for somebody like me who was obsessed with the outdoors from a very young age. So even if I had access to my room or my you know, I had a Commodore 64 when I was very young, and then the Super Nintendo, I think, after that. Even if I had that, there's only so much Mario I could take before I needed to get outside. So the prospect of being indoors was nightmarish. I can't get my son to go out now. You know what I mean? I have to make him go outside, and he isn't at the stage yet where he goes out and plays with other kids. And to be honest, he's 9. I think that's too old to not be doing that. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but I was certainly out long before then, and I don't think times have changed.
When the street lights come on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a more dangerous world now. I just think it's a different world.
I don't think it's more dangerous. I think the dangers are more advertised. I think the dangers are in the media more.
Yeah, we hear about
say, oh, well, there's a lot more wrong uns these days. I'm like, look at any TV presenter from the 70s. It was bad then as well.
But there's also the thing. Yeah, I mean, there's also the thing, when I was kind of that age, you could just go out with your bike or a football and walk into any street and find kids your age and kind of just join in. If I drive through the streets now, I barely see a kid. You know, they're all indoors on bloody PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah. Or out robbing.
At least they're getting fresh air. And exercise.
It depends on how good their connection is. They might be on nailing the daylights out of your crypto wallet and whatnot now, isn't it? You know.
Potentially. What did you say there, Philip?
I haven't got one. I got 2 kids and a wife. I haven't got a wallet. Never mind a crypto wallet. Can tell you what a crypto wallet was.
I've got a crypto wallet. Isn't that just an imaginary wallet, like what you wish you had? Is that
like the one Superman's got?
Yeah, you give them real money and they give you an IOU.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the Bank of England. Sorry, Philip, what did you say?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking there is more of a disconnect with nature these days, because there is less of it because of urban planning and building. There is less. I mean, the days of going and playing in fields are less and less because the fields have been built on. The population has grown and there's less green space, and so there is a disconnect. So there is less opportunity for going out and playing out in nature, and therefore with technology advancing and lack of opportunity, it's kind of inevitable that this pattern was going to happen. So you kind of have to force it to happen by, like you said, pushing them outside to get it to happen. And this is where the forest schools and scouts and anything that helps push that agenda of connecting with nature and learning, coming back to the old ways and the old skills is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, is it worth the battle if you force them to go to scouts and they hated it after a week and really wanted to just stay at home and play on their Xbox or the PlayStation and stuff like that? Parents seem to give up very easily. I mean, I've seen so many new parents, and I'm often near the maternity wards, but I've seen so many new parents that have, they're like, I'm only going to give my children educational toys. My child's only having wooden toys. Them same parents, 6 months in, are like, give him the fucking iPad. Just give him the iPad. Put Blippi on.
I'll be honest, because I mean, there's a big age gap between me and my kids.
I'd hope so. That's usually the case with generations.
Physically, there is. Mentally, I think they're more mature than I am.
All right, okay.
But so that computers were around when I was a teenager and whatnot. Not so much when I was younger than that. But yes, you always knew where each other were, and somebody had a ball of some kind. There was plenty of youth activities where I grew up. We were quite fortunate. There was as much as you could handle. Depending on where you are in the country, you might have to look a bit further. But I openly admit, in the mornings before school, the tablet goes on, and my kids do watch a couple of cartoons. We know what those cartoons are, so we're all right with it. It helps while you're getting the morning routine done. Cup of tea, go and have a wash, brush your teeth, but there is a set amount, it's a set time. Then it goes off. There's no negotiating, because now it's time to get yourself washed, dressed, brush your teeth, get your hygiene routine on before you go to school. That's it. Then there's cartoons are done then. It's time for get your head in school mode, you know. We don't live far from the school at all. We're within walking distance, so that time is used practicing counting, for example. We just make it a game. And again, when they come home, there's only a certain amount of screen time. It does help when you are trying to finish things you were doing before school pickup. I openly admit that. But I think as for when it comes to getting them involved in youth groups and various activities, and it might just be outdoor activities with their parents, you gotta be able to sell it. You got to build it. And so it sounds a bit nasty saying this, but you have to take a leaf out of certain media organizations' books. You've got to build the narrative and start building the story of why something is interesting and good fun. Kids will get to an age where mum and dad are no longer cool. They were born ancient and know nothing. They're normally about 3 when they do that.
You were never their age.
Right?
You were never their age.
But you've got to generate an interest somehow. And sometimes they have to learn, as we do as adults, you have bad days. You will have a bad evening at cadets or scouts or martial arts or down a youth club, whatever. You'll get your playground politics. You get it in the workplace. It's horrible saying it, but sometimes it's necessary and it's character building. They just have to know that you're there to comfort them as long as they're in the right. And I get some stick off parents for saying that. I won't sit there and mollycoddle one of my kids if their teacher told them off because they were doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go and start a war with your teacher because that teacher told you off because they caught you, fooling around, climbing on tables, launching things around the classroom. I'm not going to go and have a go at that teacher.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have a go at you as well because everybody likes a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
But
that's how I was brought up. So yeah, that's legit.
But I think if we can get them involved in things, and sometimes you've got to have, like I said, a bad night on the mat in the ring, wherever your youth club or organization meets, you get it, but you have to push past it. But again, if it's a constant thing all the time, then as a parent, you do have to look into it and say, right, okay, why are they coming home in tears, or it's the same thing every however many nights a week your gathering is. Why are they always miserable? It's time for you to ask a question.
Phil, the mollycoddling, as Steve says, it's changed through generations. I mean, to the point where at school you'd get the cane and stuff like that, and then when that kind of stopped, they would tell your parents, and your parents would give you a good idea and stuff like that. And now that stopped. And I get that this was implemented to protect children from abuse, people abusing that. But is it also scared parents into not being able to discipline their children properly anymore? Is that the issue more than anything else? Is that there's no attention span? If I had a low attention span, I'd get a clip around the ear hole, and that was pay attention.
Okay, so smacking laws are there for a reason, and I think it's a good reason, because we shouldn't be trying to breed a generation that is used to violence and uses it, because it's not right until extreme situations like you're in the army or self-defense. That's quite extreme. So I think the premise is correct. However, I think the woke agenda, everyone having rights, has gone too far, and no one knows where they stand anymore. And there's too many rights to the point where no one really is comfortable in their own skin, unless they're old school and old fashioned. And unfortunately, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable these days. It's really tricky. It's unfortunately we are in an era where it's very tricky, and also the number of children in families is going down, and that means they are going to be mollycoddled because
Not in my family.
I just imagining what Brian's typing right now.
They are mollycoddled and they are pampered, and this is a soft generation because of that, and that's because of the demographics. Unfortunately, it's a sign of the time as well.
Would you agree with that, Alan? What's your say? You were brought up similar to me, I assume, similar sort of generation. So they weren't doing the cane in school and stuff when we were there, but your parents still wouldn't shy away from tanning your ass, as it were.
Yeah, no. I mean, my grandmother would smack me. You know, I'd get a smack for doing certain things, and to be honest, it didn't really have any real effect on me from a point of view of it neither helped nor hindered me. You know, it wasn't a bad smack. It was always just a little, you know, it didn't even hurt type thing, but it gave the impression of, you've done wrong, this is what I'm doing. That can easily be replaced now with a telling off, or in most cases, the confiscation of some electronic device for a period of time. So I'm kind of more a little bit.
That's worse
Yeah,
than smacking.
I mean, so I do kind of see the point of having like smacking laws and stuff in place, because you're always going to get those people who take it too far. And it's to prevent those kind of people. It wasn't really to prevent people like my grandmother clipping me around the ear. You know, it was to prevent the people who think it's okay to literally beat their children in the street. The generation is softer, though. I think that is the case. I think there's lots of different reasons for that. I think it's particularly bad for boys. I think boys are the most persecuted group now, and they have been for probably not just the current generation, but the generation before that as well. And that goes a long way as to the attention span of boys in certain organizations like Army Cadets. And the Scouts used to be the Boy Scouts. Now it's the Scouts. But the Girl Guides are still the Girl Guides. You know, there are no spaces now for boys just to be in all boy groups, because they've done away with that. But there's plenty of spaces for all girl groups. And boys need... I'm a big believer in the fact that boys and girls are different, which might be a shock to some people, but they are. They think differently, they act differently, and they need to be in spaces where sometimes it's just them, and it's hard to find that. I mean, I'm kind of going through a similar thing now. My son was in the Beavers and then the Cubs. I kind of pushed him into those things. He liked it for a while, and this week he complained to me so much about going to the Cubs that I then didn't see any value in forcing them to go. I don't believe in forcing children into things. And so this week I've pulled him out of the Cubs. But now he's talking about wanting to join other clubs, jiu-jitsu, gymnastics for some reason, and other things. So that's fine. I'll explore those things, and eventually he'll find his own thing. There's no point in precariously trying to push him in the direction that I thought I wanted to do when I was younger. Because when I look back now at my own childhood, I was in the Anchor Boys, the Boys Brigade, the Army Cadets, the Sea Cadets. You know, I bloody joined everything. But that meant I also left everything. I was in it for a few months. Then I would leave and get bored and join something else. And that's kind of just what we did back then.
You were doom scrolling clubs.
I was doom scrolling clubs, yeah, because, you know, I would get there, realize that they weren't doing the thing that I wanted to do all of the time, and I would get bored of it and move on. And that's kind of the kids have got short attention spans.
Why are you leaving the Army Cadets, Alan? Because they weren't killing people.
yeah, they were boring me about marching and looking nice and presentable. What's that got to do with running around the woods like Rambo? Yeah. You know, it's kind of just the way it is, I think, with all kids of all generations. But there's definitely a softness going on. But then again, I mean, I listen to a lot of other podcasts where they talk about a pushback on that. I mean, there's the whole thing about like the manosphere and all this kind of stuff, which is boys who are getting to, or men now who have got to a point where they've been told that they're worthless and they're the bad people, and they're starting to now reject that and push back and say, you know what, up yours. You know, we're going to join our own club. We're going to make our own club now. We're going to do our own thing, which is why you see an increase in things like martial arts and things like that. You know, I do jiu-jitsu, and the kind of people that I speak to at jiu-jitsu, you know, they all kind of think along those lines. They're there because they literally want to be part of a club that is with like-minded people. There are women in my jiu-jitsu club. It's not an entirely all-male thing, but it's very much grouped to one side. And people there all generally kind of think and act the same way.
Cool. Well, thank you. I think we've established the old generation prep well and the young generation are screwed. So the next question or the next talking point really is, how do we, as preppers, how do we deal with this? For me, I see two avenues. You're either just being the prepper and prepping for everyone in the family and hoping, obviously, nothing ever happens, but when it does, it's a short, sharp, quick lesson for them, or you introduce them to prepping and you get them involved with it. So we'll go around the table. We'll start with you this time, Philip. Do you think you should get kids involved in the prepping and the reasons behind it, or just do it for them?
Both. You do it for them because duty of care, your job is to look after them. So you're going to do it for your loved ones regardless, when you can afford to do so. But also, they're going to need to buy into it. Otherwise, you're fighting them as well as whatever else you're fighting. The situation wise, you can't be fighting everything. So you want buy-in, and for that you have to prepare them and introduce them so that they're willing and they're interested and they know what to do with the preps and where it is and how to do whatever skill is necessary. Both. But having said that, children can be quite fickle, and so you always have to prepare for them because that's your duty of care.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think none of us would disagree with that side of things. Steve, do you get the kids involved with it? Do you try and tell them what you're doing? Oh, sorry, just before that, thank you for the whatever, Nige. Appreciate the £10 whatever. That's the kind of whatevers I like. Much appreciated. Steve, do you get the kids involved, or do you plan to? Is there an age?
To a degree, yes, because they are very young. They're 4 and 2. So I get them involved.
Should have jobs. Chimney sweeps at 4. Perfect size.
Well, they can sing and dance, so, better than I can, and they can fit up the chimney better than I can. So we might be onto something there. You can do the website for it.
There you go.
You might need a VPN, Mike, because they won't allow, they won't be into sticking 4-year-olds up chimneys in this country anymore.
Best download it now before the government bans the VPN. Anyway,
right. So before I wandered off on a pathway there, I do get them involved. They love to help. They love to help. So if I am pulling boxes around and pulling things out, I say help. Or I give them a job that I build them up that they are the only one that can do this job, and Daddy really needs help. I need your big brain to help Daddy count all these things. So now we're using a bit of grey matter as well. There are some things that I don't have them involved in because it's easier for me to get that work done or those tasks done when they're in school or playgroup, and I don't need help. But yes, and when they are, as they grow, I will explain various things to them in a way that they'll be able to understand. But my wife and I fully intend for them to understand why we put things away, why is food in this place or that place, and why this and why that. Why has Dad got 3 of those when somebody else's dad doesn't have any of those? Just to simply understand. Why do Mum and Dad go to the petrol station when they've got plenty in the car? Well, Mum and Dad don't think half a tank is plenty. Yeah. Just taking that as an example. Why has Dad always got food in his van? Well, Dad's a greedy git. Why does Mum keep 6 bottles, 750ml bottles of water in the boot of the car? Thirsty, ain't you?
I thought you were going to say wine. Then I was saying that's because of Dad too.
that too. Yeah. Why's Mum got a bell that says ring for prosecco? Well, Dad's come up a day early. Ding, 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 ding. But just little things like that. We have we have a collapsible child's potty. Because anyone who's going through the toilet training with their kids, you need them everywhere, right? You can go to the toilet before you leave the house. 10 minutes into a car journey, Mom, Dad, oh, here we go. You know, and the side of the road is not always a good option. And people have said, so why do you have one of those? Well, it's frowned upon taking a number 2 in Lidl's car park these days. You know, society's gone downhill.
I'd let them take the number 2 if Lidl refused them to use the toilet they've got in there.
Yeah, okay, Lidl's, but then sometimes you can't get across that car park quick enough, can you? You know.
No.
But either way, that's why we've got one, love.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have wet trousers all day, do you?
Yeah.
So,
you
things like that.
Explaining the little issues like that rather than saying we're doing it all because Putin's coming to get us. You don't.
Yeah. Dad, yeah, like Mum, Dad, you went shopping 2 days ago. Why are we in Home Bargains? And why is Dad, looking
taking photos, 1 million photos in Home Bargains?
Yeah, why is Dad pushing a Costco trolley like Conan on the Wheel of Pain? Well, because I think Russia's going to bomb us from here to the Stone Age, love, and Iran are now mates with China. And if we go through the Strait of Hormuz, Dad will have to pay more for his food. No, I'm not going to do that. I can't. I have trouble explaining that to myself, so I'm not going to do that with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. They just think it's great that Dad is looking like he's about to have a hernia or slip a disc, pushing this trolley around Costco, trying to avoid 500 other people. You know,
sounds fun.
They just have fun. They're out on a shopping trip with Mum and Dad. They're having fun, aren't they? And if they're good, they'll get sweeties or something.
Yeah. Alan, obviously you don't have your kids helping count the beans because you're not a prepper. You keep telling us you're lying to yourself, but you're not a prepper. At what point do you ever introduce them into the reasons behind survivalism apart from as a hobby?
I've got this very deliberate approach of normalization. To me, it's about normalization rather than pushing them into a particular mindset of this is what we do and this is why we do it. Because, I mean, that's the thing with kids as well. I know this from being a kid. If my dad was to try and push something on me because that was his thing and he was telling me I should get into it, I would probably go out of my way not to get into it because I was being told to get into it. It becomes a kind of a pushback on the society, a push back on your parents as to, well, I'm not interested in the thing you're interested in. I'm going to go and do my own thing. And then they get to an age where they think they know better anyway. And the thing that you're interested in is stupid because they've got a much better way of doing it. So for me, it's a case of normalization. I've always had camping trips that involve, my family, which are a little bit less intense than the kind of ones that I would do by myself. But that's an introduction into here's the normalization of this as an activity. We're not doing it because I think the Russians are going to attack. We're doing it because it's just a fun thing to do. And the hope is that by the observation of the activities we're doing day to day and the routines, that just becomes part of what it is you do when you're out there. It's a lesson without them knowing that it's a lesson. My son's been camping, dozens of times now with me. He's never camped on a campsite. There will be a time where he gets to an age where he probably goes with his friends to a campsite or something, and he'll be amazed that, like, what the hell is this? Why are we camping beside all these other tents on a field? This isn't camping, because the normalization of the kind of style I camp is going to be ingrained in him just as part of his upbringing. And you tend to find that people who are the most resilient, the most prepared for things when problems arise, it's not because they were it was drilled into them as a child, like a drill sergeant. It's because they grew up and they just happened to be in an environment where they happen to know how to go hunting or camping or fishing or farming. They grew up in that household and it kind of rubs off on them. They see it, they observe it, they absorb it, but it's not being forced into them. If my son asks me a specific question, I'll give him a specific answer and I'll never lie. I'll actually just, well, here's the reason. And he'll probably lose interest 2 minutes into me talking, but he asked the question, I gave the answer. And if he becomes interested in that in the future, then great. If
Sit
not,
down,
then,
kids.
you know.
I'm going to give you an Agenda 2030 lecture. It's going to take 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of philosophizing with it. I mean, I've got a whole philosophy as to why I think, you know, survivalism and wild camping is the way to go with things. But I mean, people do have different mindsets and different ways of thinking, and your children aren't you. This is the thing that I'm learning. You know, they're not. You can't precariously live through them. It's kind of like the old school. You know, the parents that force their kids to be piano. You go to piano lessons 5 times a week in the hope that they're going to be great pianists, and then the very first thing they do when they get a bit of autonomy is never go near a piano again in their life.
Yeah.
You know. But I mean, just briefly as well with the first part of that question, should you prepare for your family? Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, as much as we joke around, we are preppers or survivalists because to us it's a very serious thing as well. If the things that we prepare for and think about ever materialized, I mean, the whole point of our existence is to prepare for those things and protect the people around us. And also, I mean, kind of selfishly as well, there's no point in you just being prepared and having all the knowledge and all the gear, and your wife and kids having nothing and no knowledge, and you saying, well, I told you so, you know. Well, you're going to have to now divide your stuff with them now anyway, unless you're planning on just bugging out by yourself. So it makes more sense to prepare for them as well, you know, which I do. I have enough stuff that's well beyond my need, but I know I could, you know, my whole household is kitted out should the reason be there.
Yeah. Phil, they when they're younger like that, I feel like they're very impressionable. They're happy to get involved, like Steve said. They're just having fun, going out with mum and dad and stuff like that. As they get older, they want to rebel against everything, right? They want to push back on these things. Where does this conversation with them go when it's kids going into secondary school? Them discovering what a doomsday prepper is, or having the mick taken kind of thing, and then they'll completely rebel against it, right? Will have the opposite effect than what we want.
Yeah, it does. It does go into that realm where they will rebel. However, they'll soon see the upside of it when no one else has got food because there's a power cut and no one else has got power, etc. They'll see the upside of it. When there's power cuts here, they can last days. And our youngest, she is addicted to technology and she loves power for the technology, so she does see the benefit of it. She now takes a phone with a power bank everywhere she goes, so she might not know it, but she's a prepper.
She's prepared, yeah.
And she knows things. Occasionally she'll surprise us by saying things that we've talked about, and she does absorb facts randomly, and so she is that way inclined already, and she doesn't know it. It's not conscious. It's like you were saying again, that I keep repeating the same thing that everyone else is picking up on, but you were talking about sensitizing them to it and normalizing it. That's exactly. And when they're rebelling, yes, they're rebelling it because they're trying to find their own way and their own identity and independence, and that's normal. But they do take part of your identity with them, and that's great to see that.
Excellent. Right, so shit hits the fan, Steve. Shit hits the fan. Somebody turned off the one generator that's in Wales. You're all fucked, right? The only thing still working is gas TV. So how do you help younger children adjust? Now, you're in a very strict routine, I would say, for a modern parent with screen time. Now, which is great for them not being overly reliant on it. But what about when that screen time is suddenly zeroed out, when there's no power? How can you like nurse them over that adjustment period?
I would suggest keeping them busy, but again, I can only say so much about various children. Like I said, mine are 4 and 2. I've volunteered with 10 to 18-year-olds of different walks of life in the past, but keeping them busy is a big thing. But it's easy to say that because parents have to be kept busy to a certain point as well, because it's easy for parents to get frustrated and there's only so many imaginary games I can make up if you haven't got lots of. You can have tons of board games and card games, but if you're suddenly going to go from screen time, a lot of screen time, to zero, and now 100% board games and card games or whatever, that's going to be incredibly difficult. That only works on a Hollywood movie. And again, depending on your kids and if they've got various what do they call it? What do they call it now? Neurodivergent, I think they call it now. You might have kids that are hyperactive. Some might have learning difficulties. Some might be genuinely little shits. And some might be good kids. So if you've got nothing put by and the plug gets pulled, you better get imaginative real quick. And sometimes you need to have that bit of space between parents and kids before you try throttling each other.
Yeah.
So you might have to take a minute and settle yourself down and talk yourself through the potential problems you're going to have, because we all react different ways.
Yeah.
My reaction might be, right, okay, all right, let's go and have a look at a fuse box, or let's have a look out in the street. And then other people might be like, the sky's falling. And, within minutes, they're all out in the street thinking, the worst of the worst has happened. So it's, we've got to
we know which channels they watch on YouTube.
What you mean, like, don't go there, don't do it. See, there it is, like, goose frapper.
That's it. That's the one. Alan, I talk about adjustments when it's like prepping and bugging in. It is purely boredom that the adjustment's going to be. But if your plan as a survivalist, let's say you knew that somewhere was going to be hit nearby, because we all know like targets near us kind of thing, you have the time to get out, to bug out. That's a hell of an adjustment. How does it go from just a weekend camping with dad to this is us surviving now? How do you ease that transition with kids?
The way you would ease that is by getting them involved and not lying to them. I mean, obviously, it's highly dependent on the age and the maturity of the kind of children we're talking about here. So in some ways, it would be a lot easier if your kids are 2 and 4, because they're kind of just going with the flow. They have no choice in the matter. They're not, especially a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old, is a baby, basically, and isn't really going to be aware of what's going on. It'd be a lot harder to adjust, in my opinion, if you had a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old than a 6 or 7-year-old or an 8-year-old even. And I mean, that's highly variable as well. It depends on the individual. I mean, I don't really go by ages. I go by the maturity of that child. But I mean, I would keep them informed. I mean, obviously you don't want to install absolute terror in them, but I don't really see how it would be possible for me to hide from a 9-year-old that nuclear war had just started, and that's why I can't get on his PlayStation for the next, foreseeable future. I mean, there's just no way around that. I mean, it would simply be a case of, okay, forget about your PlayStation just now. We've got this other thing, and we need your help. And you give them some tasks, and you give them something to do, and you make them feel part of it, and you move on to the place that you're bugging out to, or whatever it is you're doing. That's your mission. You tell them what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. And as time progresses, that will become normalized. And of course, as they get older, they'll become more proficient, and there'll be more understanding as to what's going on and why you're doing it. And I mean, that really is the only thing you can do. I mean, there is nothing else you can do about it. I mean, you could literally just keep them entirely in the dark, which I think will have a detrimental effect on them, particularly if something happens to you and they're left on their own. You've set them up to fail then. So you have to inform them.
Yeah. I mean, Philip, that's got to be the biggest fear as parents, right? Something happening to us in SHTF and them having to fend for themselves. That's probably more and more encouragement to get them as involved as possible. But do you have contingencies for that? Do you have a prepping Bible? I think Brian called it, with a folder with everything they need.
If I was that organised, I would have it, but
but no.
When you talk about fear, fear is a mindset, and fear can be overcome with conditioning. What they say in June is fear is the mind killer. It can paralyze you. So yes, fear is natural, and fight, flight, and freeze. But what you want to, if you're prepared enough, then you'll get past that fear quickly, because you know you have to act. And you talk about boredom, but boredom, studies have shown that it encourages creativity. So if a child is bored, part of me thinks, great, that will make you do something. What are you going to do about it? Because I'm not your entertainment. The same with an over-reliance on technology. Some boredom is not a bad thing, because it makes them less dependent on whatever it is that they're too dependent on. So that's great. Transitions, you talk about transitions. If you're prepared enough, then you'll know that this neurodivergent child relies on certain routines, and you'll know it'll affect them, but you'll also have backup plans in place. And for meds, for example, you'll be looking at what in nature can provide some degree. This is not medical advice, so I don't want to get you into trouble, but there's lots of homeopathy and herbs and so on. Research it. It might not have the same effect, and it might, as long as it's not harmful, it's worth looking into, because you might need it. There's always a workaround, but that depends on you overcoming the fear and planning for the transition.
That's overcoming the fears probably is the obstacle we'll all have to face, even on a personal level, definitely. Right, let's go to the comments and pull out a few of them, because I'm well behind. So we'll catch up with a few comments first here before we move on to the physical preps. UK resilience, man, there's been a big push on cadets now. I think they'll grow. We would talk about the attention span of that. I am the only one out of for friends and family who is prepping. The rest think if we need something, we'll just nip to the shop. That's common, Scotty. That's, I think we all have relatives and friends like that in our circles. Preparing the path says people need to realize no one is coming to save them, and if they want to see their loved ones perish due to starvation, then do nothing. I mean, yeah, it's I've got a t-shirt that says nobody's coming to save you. Because you lot wear skirts and a cable tossers, love you, says Nige. That's to you, Alan, when you're on about the can't they just speak English? Scouts are solid in South Wales. Girls are scouts. My niece learned how to use a ferro rod when she was 12. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Grump says in long-term SHCF, I do think folk will adapt, even some of those morons. Humans are historically resilient mammals. In the grand scheme of history, we're going through a short few decades of detachment. I hope you're right. Genuinely hope you're right. Nix says kids are getting their phones taken away from them, so maybe they'll get out a bit more now. Yeah, the government's talking about phone bans in schools. I'm not sure if that'll reflect at home as well, but we shall see. We have an 18-month-old, never seen a screen, never watched TV, trying to give her a different upbringing, play and imagination. Interesting. I mean, fair play to you for persevering for 18 months without having Miss Rachel babysit the kids on YouTube. Hats off to you. Do you think kids not wanting to go out is partly it's not the same anymore to go out? Everyone used to expect kids to be out. Look at them. Yeah, I think Alan pretty much said that, didn't you? Yeah. Can anyone remember the white square on the TV screen? Yes, indeed. I remember it warming up and cooling down into a dot. Showing our age. Scouts risk assessments have put a lot of people off, as the death of a lad in the mountains meant that H&S is shit hot, and you can't do anything without doing a written risk assessment. Yeah, I don't think they're handing out pocket knives to new starters anymore either. Technology has made kids unable to cope with personal interactions, says Sofa Survivalist, which is sad indeed. I did cadets, left, did a weekend pest control instead, had a lot more fun in barns and fields. Pete. Excellent. What shocking minds you all have. Oh yeah, because sorry, that was the first comment. Why does Mummy have all these batteries? Was the questions when Steve was rattling through his questions there. And I don't know what the answers were. I didn't star any, but she said, what shocking minds you all have. Mummy has batteries because of her kitchen timers needs them when she's cooking your tea. There we go. Get your minds out of the gutter. Get the youngsters used to darkness by getting into nighttime orienteering and navigation. It's a good one, definitely. Why the grid dies under Ed Sandwich Miliband. Gen Z is finished. 1 hour without TikTok and they'll be catatonic in the dark, cold, clueless, and terminally online. Welcome to the Stone Age, kids. That's very bleak, John. That's very bleak, but I'm sure a lot of people might agree with you there. Right, now we'll, if any of you have to go, by the way, desperate for the loo, just feel free to jib in and out if you need to. We're going to go on to the physical prepping side for younger children now, or for slightly older children, what have you. Before we do that, I want a quick shout out for the Scottish Prepper Meet, which is the end of August, the bank holiday weekend in August. I think all 4 of us are going to be there. That's right, is it? Phil, you're booked on, aren't you?
No, because my kids need someone to sort out their shit, and if I'm there for a whole weekend, who's going to shovel it? So I could probably visit for a day, but the whole weekend is tricky.
Shocking, Phil.
It takes me a long time just to get there. It was 5 hours to get there? More like 6.
But worth every minute, right, Phil? As we're trying to sell tickets, it was worth every minute, right, Phil?
Definitely, 100%. We met someone who's actually local to us there, and it was great to see you all and physically learn at the in the tent. Random lessons. That was great. However, if it's not close to you, it can be tricky.
Yeah. But there is still tickets left. Phil will soon figure out a way he can get there and definitely book on, I'm sure. But all the rest of us will be there. You're coming, Steve, right? You booked on, right, Steve? Don't let me down now.
Of course I am. Pending any emergencies.
Right, okay, well, there's still tickets. Anyway, it's the end of August. Great time to come down. We can answer them questions that we can't answer on here.
But
we can talk freely about them things
the
we can't talk freely on here. So it's a great time.
It's not the only meeting we got planned, though. It's not the only one.
No. There's prepping meets all up and down the country through different things. But, I'm more interested in selling tickets of this for Steve. So go away. And the other thing I wanted to shout out is don't forget I'm doing my charity thing for Bradley's, the Bradley Lowry Foundation, which is a great cause. So anything you can give to that would be awesome. Even £1 helps. Best way to give is through Just Giving. All the links are below all of my videos. PayPal is usable as well. Make sure you mark it for charity if it goes through PayPal. Okay, right. Now that's the sales pitch done. Physical preps. So Steve, we'll start with you because you have young ones like me. I've had young ones for the last 20 years. It seems when one grows up, I have another young one. But nappies, formula, teething crap, gripe water. It's endless, the list, right? For kids. Yep. How do you prep this? And how far can you go with it? Because you've got to prep in advance, right? They don't live in size 1 nappies so you can't go and bulk buy them. You've got to get size 2. You're going to get size 3. You've got to get size 4. How do you prep?
What we did, as soon as my wife was pregnant with our first one, because I've only got 2, we didn't go mad and buy like 1,000 newborn or size 0 nappies because you don't know how big they're going to be until they arrive in the world.
Yeah.
So I bought some, like a couple of packs and a couple of packs of size 1, and then went from there after they were born. Then it was a case of we planned out our household budget every month and allocated at first it was like, well, how much do we put away, for nappies and all the multitude of things that you encounter when it's your first time having children. And I said, right, well, let's say 50 quid, and we'll go from there. And if it's less, great. And some months it might be more because they grow. You know what I mean? Or when they're in school, there might be size, I don't know, 3 whatever shoe, and 2 weeks later they're a size 4. Stuff like that happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So we set a monthly budget and said, right, what do we need every month? Whatever nappies, creams, this, that, and the other. And then once they were bought, okay, well, if you needed Sudocrem, we didn't buy the little ones. We bought the biggest ones we could afford because we knew that would last longer than a month. It would last a few months. So then the next month came around. It was, do we need 3 of these? No, we've got loads left. Right. That money can go on something else, or it can just sit there and tip over into the next one. And eventually we got more organized. We weren't perfect straight off, and we're not now because things trip you up, things come out in the dark. You think you've got loads, and you pull the drawer out and you think, oh, right, better get down the supermarket a bit quick because that thing's still going to the toilet,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still eating and pooping. So that's what we did. And then over time it was and if any of your kids have got like dietary issues or allergies to you've got to keep an eye on. You've got to plan that in as well, because my youngest, for example, has a lot of trouble with dairy. So she's on a dairy-free diet, and she started something called now the milk ladder. So in stages, you slowly begin to introduce milk products back into their diet. Very slow going, but it is what it is. So that's got to be part of our preparation as well, because there's no good saying, right, I'm going to buy all this food, and I'm going to put it under the stairs and da-da-da-da-da, and then one day you need it, or it might be sooner than you think. Right, come on, eat, just get it in you. And the poor kid is now in agony all night because you just force-fed it something it shouldn't have. Yeah, and then there are those that have allergies or reactions that are deadly, like a peanut allergy, for example. So get organized, get around your budget, and just learn from your mistakes. Don't tear yourself in half. Everybody makes mistakes, but make sure you learn.
Yeah.
Because, your kids shouldn't suffer because you chose not to learn, or you chose not to adapt.
Definitely. It takes a lot more forethought and planning, and because every kid grows at a different rate and stuff like that. Alan, even more so for you, I imagine, if the same scenario and you had to bug out, young baby Alan is not going to stop growing on the road or bugging out to locations and stuff like that, and you can't carry 4 sets of shoes and the clothes for the next 12 years. What's the improvisation, the adaptation? How's that even thought about with your method of survival?
Yeah, it's a funny thing actually, because there was only one time when my son was very young where I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole from a prepper point of view of I was looking into respirators actually, and very young children can't wear respirators, so I ended up going down a rabbit hole of the hoods. The whole bloody thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they go inside it, and I was very close to actually buying one of those at one point, and I kind of talked myself out of it. But that was the only point I was at where he was a baby, where I was thinking none of the stuff that I have will make any difference if I can't protect him with this thing, and there's no way of me getting around it. And I'm not going to sit there with a respirator on with the world's ending and watch them die, because I'd probably what be the point. That passed. I mean, the thing is, when it comes to wilderness survival, the interesting thing about that is The only thing you have to really adapt when it comes to for young children is the clothing. Clothing is the thing that is the most difficult thing to recreate in a wilderness environment. And of course, children grow out of clothing very quickly, and they need appropriate clothing. It's not just a case of putting on a pair of trackies and trainers. You go into the woods with a pair of trackies and trainers, and you'll very quickly realize that's actually more of a liability than anything else. Now, I can, when it comes to the actual mobility, the shelter building, the food preparation, the actual survivability of being in these kind of spaces, it really doesn't matter what age the child is. Inuit people and many other Aboriginal people have brought up very, children from baby all the way up in what we would consider to be Stone Age or very primitive conditions for millennia. So that's not a problem. What is a problem in our modern society is the clothing. So I do make a point of making sure that my son, as he grows, has the appropriate outdoor clothing. And the way I work that in is simply with the camping trip thing. So we go a camping trip out 2 or 3 times a year. I make sure every single time we go, do you have the correct footwear? Do you have the correct waterproofs? Do you have the correct? And I size them up all the time. It doesn't have to be Gucci stuff because it gets really expensive really quickly if you do that. But at least I know that if he's got the right clothes, I've got the right everything else. Because the right everything else, if it works for me, it'll work for him. The only thing that doesn't work for him that works for me is the clothes, because I would have to make the clothes in that case. And that's not an easy thing to do if you've ever tried to do it.
That was going to be the next question. Like a year, he's got all the right stuff. It's brilliant, no problem. 6 months into bugging out, he has a growth spurt, right? Do you get the needles out and do you adapt clothing? Is it a case of trying to scavenge, find stuff like that, resource? What would you think your thinking would be around that?
Well, I mean, I would obviously it would be entirely dependent on the surroundings. You would make use of whatever you had around you. If scavenging was available, then that's what you would do, because that would be the easiest thing to do. From a purely primitive point of view, if we were literally talking about, for some reason, most of the population of Britain is gone, and I'm living in the Cairngorms with my 9-year-old and my dog, and he gets to the point where he outgrows the outdoor clothing that he's got there, then yeah, I would be trying to fashion things like ponchos and primitive sort of wraps. I mean, somebody was joking about it earlier about us Scots wearing kilts and things like that. That's a very, very practical item of clothing that doesn't care about how tall you are, because it's effectively just a wool blanket wrapped around your naked body. And that's what you would do. You would devolve back to that kind of stage of getting by, and you would adapt that as time went on. And the longer you were in a place, as long as you had shelter, you would be able to adapt your clothing to meet those needs. I mean, it's very, very unlikely that somebody's likely to die over a long period of time because they've outgrown their clothing. You would find an innovative way of getting around that. And it's not going to be jumping on the back of a deer and skinning it and turning it into some sort of caveman looking thing. In all probability, it's just finding a good blanket and adapting that and to an item of clothing until I eventually find something better.
Yeah. As a prepper point of view, Phil, if you're prepping and you've got 3 years worth of supplies in your house, would it be sensible to prep 3 years worth of growth within a child? And you've got to consider, obviously, if that steps into like a period of puberty and stuff like that, there's a whole new ball game that you've got to prep and have ready. How far advanced do you go? Or is it one of those things that you just don't even think about when it comes to it? You're going to have to go and find, make, do, and mend.
It depends on your skill sets and your family makeup. For example, Steve's case would be very much different than ours, because a 4 and 2-year-old, he'd have to do a lot of cutting of his clothes to adapt it for a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. That's so Steve might have to plan for the stages differently.
Steve needs some sewing lessons, is what you're saying.
My wife has a master's in fine art, specialising in textiles, so I'm fine.
Oh, excellent! Right, so when you're bugging out up in North Scotland and you're thinking of somewhere to get clothes, Alan, there you go. Mark Phil's house with an X.
When you've got a teenager, if it's SHTF, I don't care about the fads and the trends. You put it on, or you could die of hypothermia. Your choice. But I'm big and I'm bigger than my daughter's likely to ever be. And my wife is at the moment bigger, so we'll just adapt some extra clothes that we've got, and if not, you adapt and you overcome. That's how it is. And over a longer time, you scavenge, and then if you can't do that, then you're going to be like Tom Hanks in Castaway, and you're going to be
a loincloth and spears.
Turn up like Hawkins, adapted to their sandals, and all primitive. It'll be fascinating.
It would be definitely interesting, especially with the weather we get in this country, to be dressed like that, talking to a volleyball with a handprint on. I think I saw that in Manchester last week, though. It's nothing new to see somebody walking around like that. It's fine.
That's not a weather-dependent issue, Mike, in this country. It's purely location for that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing to do with the weather.
I'm sure I saw Captain Crack Sparrow the other day as well, running across the town centre. It's just, it is what it is.
We used to have town triers. We've now got town crackheads, haven't we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. They don't give you the news. They just lie there, though. That's the problem. Anyway, I've completely lost my notes. So yeah. Anyway, where the that go? Organized. Here we go. Right. Obviously, consumables, nappies, milk, and stuff like that we spoke about. I think clothes is the biggest factor, like that would have to be improvised and adapt and stuff like that. At what point, Steve, we talked about like telling them why you're doing this, right? And stuff like that. But the lights have gone off. We're now living in Teotihuacan. At what point does that have to be accelerated massively? Because if you look at the youth like now, they don't grow up till like quite late on. Whereas if you go back to the Victorian days, you know, 10-year-olds were having jobs and responsibilities, and 12-year-olds were parents and stuff like that. Are we going to see a shift back to that? Are they going to have to grow up very quickly? And what age do you think you'd have to start introducing, like, okay, son, now it's your turn for guard duty tonight?
Right. Well, I think you can start at any age, and this is the thing. If everything's going great, big buttons haven't been pushed and all the rest of it, it's always a good time to talk to your kids about, not talking to strangers, things like this. Or if something's wrong, you can talk to this person, auntie, whoever, uncle, so-and-so. I don't think that there's never a bad time to talk about that or to reinforce it, reiterate it with your kids anyway. For example, in our house, we do something called front door drills. I call them front door drills because that's my mentality towards it. We have a doorbell camera. We have CCTV on the outside of the house. I use it. Sometimes it's easy to forget. You might even forget to look in the little spy hole in the door. When Dad goes, the girls, they want to help. Dad, I'll come to the front door with you. It might be the post person or whoever, right? In my hallway, there is a rug. I tell them they stand at the back of the rug and they don't come further forward. When they ask me why, I tell them it's because Daddy takes up a lot of room in the hallway, and then when I open the door, I don't want to step back and hurt your feet or trip over you. What I tell my wife is a different story. Then I tell my girls, when you're really good at that, I'm going to show you what the dogs can do. They go, what do you mean, Dad? Well, one knows how to open the door when he wants to come in from outside because he's going to school tomorrow. He is. He's a pup. He is not trained in the various things yet. My adult working dog is. So I say to him, well, you can help me and you can help learn how to control these dogs as well. I don't set my dog on a postman. I like the postman. He doesn't always bring me bills. So it becomes then this thing of the hallway, the door knocking is not a time to just run at the door and open it to anybody. Another one we do, for example, they have fire drills in school. We have smoke alarms in the house and the rest of it. You can set them off manually as well. And I tell them, look, if it ever goes off at night, this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes off in the daytime because dad's burnt the bacon again, don't panic. It's very loud, but don't panic. Little things like that, because with my kids, it becomes a game with them.
Yeah.
And if they do it really well, they get chocolate buttons. Chocolate buttons are like currency in my house, but they only come out when things have gone well. So that's what we do in my house anyway. As for if it literally just went boom and it's on, I would have to try and tell them that games that we play, we're going to be doing it a lot more often now.
Accelerate the level progress.
Yeah, but I am dealing with a 4 and a 2-year-old. I'm not dealing with an 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 16-year-old. So,
no, but I mean, obviously, they can only do so much at that age now. So
yeah,
and it all goes off. You're not going to suddenly have them doing guard duty. Do you foresee an age when you'd start to introduce that, or is it purely going to be based on how well they adapt?
I think I would honestly have to look at what's their attention span like. I'm not going to give a 6-year-old a 12-hour shift in the living room with a set of binoculars and a notepad and a radio going, Dad, is that oddball from 63 coming down the road? I think again it depends on what emotional and physical maturity your kids are. Because that, sadly, if that's the world they were growing up in, whether it be a short-term or a long-term problem, you would have to adjust things.
Mm-hmm.
It is a difficult question. It's a very good question. So
it's one we never have to face, right? But we hope
you don't want to face it, do you? But then there's the games you play when they're younger. Car number plate games. Memorize. What was that? What color was that car that went past? I'm not worried about whether it was. I nearly said Ford Cortina, then that nearly let my age out the bag big time. But what was that third car that went past us? What color was it? We used to play games like that all the time. So I come from
black and white, Dad, like everything this generation.
Yeah, the one behind us, Dad, it's a funny color. What do you mean? Well, it's a multiple colors, Dad. And it's got blue flashing lights. Oh, flipping heck! When it's 20 miles ago, But you have to look at the physical and emotional maturity of your kids.
Yeah,
It's a cop-out answer, but it really is case by case basis.
Yeah,
You'll be different to mine, different to Alan's, different to Phil's, and to anybody else watching it.
Alan, out in the wild, would it be time to turn it off from game mode into everything is serious and force that growth into a quicker maturity for their survival's sake? If anything happened to you,
yeah, you would have to. You would have to do it. I mean, like I said before, it's a case of the speed that you do this will be based on the maturity of the children. Because installing fear in children or installing fear in anybody that's with you is counterproductive. It actually becomes more of a liability than anything else. There has to be some sort of hope at the end of the tunnel as to why you're doing something. It can't be entirely all doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of just it's a case of thinking about it from not how things used to be, but how things are just now and how they have to be in order to get to another place. And it kind of, I don't want to go back to the previous point, but just there was something that we mentioned there slightly, which I think this is one of those things that I think is different from preppers and survivalists. I often hear preppers talking about things like how many nappies they would require in order to bug out, and how many, how hard it would be to make clothing, by sewing it together and stuff, and milk, baby formula and things like that. Okay, plastic nappies that are sized to a baby and artificial milk are products of our modern age. You don't need those things, right? Disposable nappies are ridiculous. I would never ever encourage anybody to prep those.
No. We've got
terry towels. Learn how to use terry towels, because that's more practical. It's a lot lighter, a lot cheaper, and it makes more sense. There's even a wilderness equivalent to that using sphagnum moss and willow withies to to tie them together. Or Inuit people do that kind of thing as well. And the same can be said about sort of clothing. I mean, you could make a poncho from a piece of carpet in about 10 minutes with a pair of scissors. You don't need to find clothes. You just need to find something to cover your body to protect you from the elements. And then you have to find ways of having the principles of insulation between those materials. But you don't actually need clothing. You don't need a pair of trousers. Human beings went millennia without trousers. You just need something that protects the body. That's the difference. It's a case of not taking civilization with you, because if civilization is gone, then the thing that's there is gone. So you're in a new civilization now, and you have to try and imagine yourself in the period where that kind of civilization was closest to your now, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely learning a lot from history. Yeah.
And then hopefully it'll get back to the way where it was previously. But I think it's just a case of I've pretty much forgot the original question because I went back on myself. But I think
it's how quickly you've got to force that maturity level to change within the kids. Like, you
would have to do it at a much more accelerated pace for sure. But it would have to be. There's no point in terrifying your 5-year-old. I mean, there's just no point to that. It's counterproductive. But you do have to bring them into a little bit closer to reality, because I mean, and it does happen. I mean, I've read stories. I follow Second World War stuff a little bit, and I've read stories of babies being taught how not to cry. Actual babies, and they learned to not cry. Obviously you're talking about sort of like Jewish babies in Poland and things like that. But the parents had somehow managed to install enough wisdom into the very, very young children that when they were being pursued and whatever, they managed to do that. You wouldn't think that such a thing would be possible, but it is if the situation is literally life and death.
Yeah. Kids are very resilient and very quick at adapting. I think a lot of people don't realize this. I did the interview with Anna from Kiev, and wartime life for her children is just a normality now. They've adjusted better than most of the adults have.
The thing is, childhood trauma is a massive issue. A childhood trauma is the thing that all good parents try to prevent from happening.
Yeah,
because that has a knock-on effect on the entire life of that child. Yeah. And even in war and conflict and all-out war, Second World War, the children who suffered the most as adults they suffered because they were traumatized. But there are other children who went through the exact same conflict in the exact same place, but they were exposed to it in such a way and educated in such a way, and they had parents who showed sort of, good parenting to a point where they were able to install enough. I don't even know the words for it, but their kids weren't as traumatized. They managed to get their way through it, and that made them a better person in the future. And that's what you have to learn to do. So even if you're absolutely terrified because the bloody zombies are attacking, there's no point in traumatizing your children in the process.
Yeah, exactly. Bob has just come in, and Bob says it all the time. You've got to be that voice. You've got to be that calm person in the household. When the kids are coming down, when they're panicking, stuff like that, you've got to be absolutely the absolute rock, the calm person in there.
You need to be the tip of the spear. You need to be right at the tip. You have to take everything in. I mean, that's to my mind. I mean, it's kind of old fashioned, but if you're the man, and you're kind of the head of that household, and you're the prepper, and you're the one with all the knowledge, then you're the one that unfortunately is going to have to take all of the shit. You know what I mean? Because that's what you've prepared yourself to do for most of your life. Now it has to actually be put into use.
Yeah. Phil, I'm going to twist the question for you, because that's what you like to do to me when you're in the chat. How do you uncondition older kids for if the situation was that a police uniform is no longer a sign of authority? If instant respect is not given to people in uniforms, because potentially then people in uniforms might not be friends anymore. How do you change that conditioning? How do you adapt them into that? Because they've grown up for 9, 10, 12, 13 years, whatever it is, knowing police. I can go to the police if there's anything wrong. I can go to someone in uniform. When that's suddenly a Teotihuacan situation and that might not be the police, how do you change that conditioning?
Yeah, for me, that's great because my daughter is a teenager and she doesn't like authority. So that's
Yeah,
going to be easy for me.
yeah,
Uh, you have to talk to them about the danger of trusting certain things. Is that really a soldier or policeman at the door? Or is that uniform looking scruffy and they haven't got an ID card? You have to teach them to be suspicious and to always look beyond. So it's situational awareness because they could be lying. And you also have to try and help them to trust their gut instinct. And that's a really tricky thing to do, to trust your instincts. Everyone has that sense of danger and so on. And you're just teaching them how to be paranoid and also analyze and be logical. So that's not a quick process, but for this scenario, it has to be accelerated. Yes, teaching suspicion for preppers should be easy, actually, because we should be naturally suspicious. So teaching your natural skill, actually.
yeah. Technically, yeah. But it's hard to break that kind of conditioning of trusting an authority figure when they've had to have that throughout a lot of their life. So I imagine that would get more difficult as they got older.
I would think it's going to be tricky to break conditioning to a degree, but I would think of scenarios. You talk when it's like people watching on a park bench. You're looking at people, they're holding hands. What does that mean? And then you're doing what you're doing there. You're twisting it into an alternative narrative, and you're doing the same for every scenario under the sun. What if? And you're thinking of scenarios that would happen at your location and that are likely to happen, and you're twisting them, and you're teaching situational awareness there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel it's like one of those things that hopefully, again, it's a bridge we never have to cross, but it's going to be one of those difficult conversations. There's going to be a lot of difficult conversations in with this. That's pretty much it. We're at the end of my notes. Let's take a last few of these comments that I starred, and then we can let these guys go off because it is a school night for everyone but Alan, who is well into the ale. He might go live after this and talk about the French people. Night. He might talk a few more cans and he'll start talking about the French. Yeah. Terry's nappies just need washing. Yeah, like when we had our last one, that was one of the preps I got. We've never used them because I don't like the idea of scraping the shit off while there's the convenience of disposable nappies. But we have them in place. It's a good thing to have. And it takes up a lot less room than making your house look like Del Boy's apartment and having Pampers stacked floor to ceiling. Learn your kids as much as you know. Pass that you hope they sponge some of it in, hopefully. Yeah. What I would say with that, I mean, we've all kind of mentioned that in a way. Try not to be that too overbearing, like you're at the campfire, you must sit 5 foot further back and don't go anywhere near it and don't do any of this, and try and have them involved and teach them the respect for the fire and stuff like that. It's kind of that thing. They won't sponge it in if you're constantly saying, you just go over there and play while dad sorts out all of this camp and does all of this. Yeah. So have them involved as much as they possibly can be without losing interest. When the smoke alarm went off in our house, the kids came running because mummy burnt the dinner and now they can have cereal for dinner. It was like the dinner bell, but extra loud. Thanks for that, Mark. Appreciate that. Join us on Discord. We're all there. You can chat with us endlessly. Oh, the horror, says Miss Worm. But yes, definitely join us on the Discord. Thank you for that. I talk to my kids like adults, get better responses and return voices, but equally have some great banter back. It is good, and there's definitely times and places for that. That's my boys are getting to that age where you can talk to them like that as well. That's pretty much it for tonight, for the end of my notes sort of thing, unless these guys have got any final points to bring up. Alan, quickly tell us about World Survivalist while there's 120 people still in here.
Yeah, so World Survivalist, my channel is, I suppose it's mostly focused on wild camping, gear reviews, a little bit of chat. It's mostly wilderness based as opposed to prepper focused, but I keep trying to introduce a little bit of that. But we'll see. I've got some videos in the making just now. I'm way behind with it. I'm trying to edit them as quickly as possible, but yeah, I'll get around to it.
But as soon as it's not a work day, he picks up the can of beer and thinks, stop the editing. I'm going to go on YouTube and slag.
I literally have the editing page open right there, but I'm so slow at it. It's unbelievable, but I'll get around to it.
Excellent. So loads to come this week on Alan's channel when he gets all that editing done tonight. So great. Don't miss that. Go and subscribe to World Survivalist. He gives up his time to come here on the panel. It's the least you can do. Phil, any final thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, Nietzsche says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So every trial in life makes you stronger. It's about mindset. All of this is mindset. Children are very resilient. They overcome and they adapt quicker than we can give them credit for. So in this situation, they actually might be really, really strong and capable. And you just don't sugarcoat it for them, but don't scare them. And they, in terms of assessing what jobs they can do, etc., most books I've read just give them easy chores to do, like picking wood and so on at first. And you look, if you know your child, you know their strengths and weaknesses. It's like a mag. You play to everyone's strengths. You know your child. Give them jobs that are appropriate and get on with it. You'll make them stronger.
Excellent. Would you like to say goodbye to the audience?
Au revoir.
Au revoir. There we go. Steve, any final thoughts on this subject and your goodbyes as well?
You took a breath before you said that, didn't you? I saw that. Live within your means. Be cool. Be calm. It's never as bad as it seems. Try and set your day up for a win. Even if it just means getting the kettle on is the best part of your day, you've had at least one win in your day. If you can, join the Discord channel. It's free. You can say way more on there than you can on social media, right? We still have rules over there, but there's a lot less rules.
Yeah, in person's even better.
yeah, very true. And everyone on there, we're past 430 people on there now, aren't we? And everybody on there is from different walks of life, different stages in life, different size property, different incomes, huge array of different people on there, different knowledge and stages in life. And nobody's there to run you down. If you can't afford something, you don't have the skill to do something, we don't stand for that over on the Discord. We don't have none of that nonsense. We're there to help each other and build each other up, not to rip each other apart.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. Alan, any final thoughts on the subject and your goodbyes?
Well, I would just say if you do have children, get outside as much as possible, because in the vast majority of SHTF type situations, you're going to be outdoors. So get used to being outdoors, become familiar with it, and it won't be such a big, scary place if you ever do find yourself out there. And in this day and age of electronic stimulation, which is what a lot of our conversation's been here tonight and about our concerns around that, have a little bit of an electronic break by introducing maybe yourself to a little bit of camping, even if it's at a campsite. You'll be amazed how therapeutic that is. I always push this on people who don't do it, because the few people who have talked into doing it in the past have always said, actually, that was really fun, that was really great. And yeah, it genuinely was like a breath of fresh air, just being in the outdoors for a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Alan. Much appreciated. Thank you, all of you guys, for your time tonight. Big, massive shout out to all the moderators this evening. We had a fun night the other night with the crazies, and it looks like it's been a milder night for crazy people tonight. The special brew has definitely run out. And our latest moderator, which is John C., thank you for becoming part of the team and helping out. Miss Worm, Evil Girl. Obviously, if you came here to look at Brian for an hour and a half, we are sorry you're disappointed. You only had us 4, but he's in there moderating anyway, so thank you, Brian, for that. that. And Miss Worm, our chief mod, don't forget to go and check out her channel at Miss Worm. Published author, great storyteller, writer, everything. It's a break. If you want a break from the prepping and all the doom and gloom, go and check out Miss Worm's channel as well. So with that said, it's just time to wave us out. So goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming. See you later.
In the glow of embers dance, we've prepared for every chance, living simple, living true, with the dream we all pursue. Prepared for every chance, living simple, living true, with the dream we all pursue.
I'm Brian! I'm Brian! I'm Brian! I'm Brian! I'm Brian and so's my wife! Right, take him away and release him. No, I'm only joking. I'm not really Brian.